I took my friends to go meet him in Las Vegas. And as soon as Kev walked with the MGM Grand, we got a big old suite there. You know, everybody thinks we're supposed to be all nice and stuff. He sees me. I'm like, really, Kev? Right away. Boom, we're wrestling. Knocked him over everything. And it was like, yo, I'm double legging him. Like, boom, I finally could score. I'm big as him now. Because growing up, he was always way bigger. Right. So I get him, I take him down. I'm smacking him, you know, and then he flips me over. I'm like, oh, shit, here we go.
Hardcore fans know the story of MMA fighter Kevin Randleman. His rise from being a two-time All-American at Ohio State all the way up to being a UFC heavyweight champion. The guy was one of the first pioneers and first superstars of the UFC. Today, we've got not only his training partner, one of his closest friends and roommate, Eric Smith, to tell that story, to kind of let you know who Kevin was and how he made that rise up to being a UFC Hall of Famer. Eric Smith, thank you for joining us again in 1v1, man. I appreciate you making the time here. Let's talk about your guy and what a lot of people in the MMA circles and UFC circles, they know him, Kevin Randleman. Tell us, you know, just give us the introduction. I mean, like I said, a lot of people in those circles, they know him. I mean, they know him, but I want to talk about him and talk about his life and career because I think it's important for people to hear his story. And you're one of his boys, you're one of his guys. Just kind of tell me first how you met him.
It was interesting how I met him. You're right, man. Everybody knows he was funny. We were just doing a tailgate for the Bucks game, and Tito Ortiz was at our tailgate. So I saw him. He cornered me and him cornered against each other. He cornered Chuck Liddell. I cornered Kevin. And, you know, whenever people talk about Kevin, you see a big smile come up on their face because he makes everybody better in the room that he's in. They just feel his energy. Absolutely. How I met him, man, I remember I was a sophomore in high school, and I made it to state in Ohio, D1. I upset this guy. So I had like a 500 record. I was 17-15. I remember a guy that was in Kevin's weight class, Tony Jolly, was like, hey, watch this dude right here. Big old brother from Sandusky. He wrestled 171. And I remember watching him and just falling in love with his style. Like he was very explosive. He was built, you know, like an action figure. I was like, oh man, I kind of want to be like that. That summer, Ohio has this what's called a junior national team where they'll take the best of Ohio's freestyle wrestlers and we'll wrestle every other state. Like we go to a tournament called Junior Nationals. And it happened to be at my high school. So Kevin sees me and he just kind of like, you know, takes me up under the wing from right there. Hey man, you know, give me a little rub on the head. I shouldn't even been at that camp, but I'm at that camp working out with these guys that are way better than me. Then the third time I saw him was my senior year. He was at this tournament. It was in Wright State, which is in Dayton, Ohio. And he's wrestling. I remember he looks at me and he's crushing this dude. You know, he smiles and gives me a thumbs up. I'm like, oh man, I'm going to Ohio State, hook, line, and sinker. So that's how I met him. That's how he built the energy. And from that point on, man, he's always just looked out for me.
Gotcha. Well, let's dive back and take a step back here because you mentioned you cornered for Chuck Liddell. Tell us about your history, Eric. Tell us about how you got, I know you're a wrestler, but tell us your story first, man.
Man, so I went to a school called Wayne, who, you know, our school is kind of, we got Braxton Miller, we got Will Allen, we got the head coach at Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman.
Okay.
You know, we got some players. I was the first D1 All-American coming out of that school, though.
Okay.
So, but I took third in state. I was going to Ohio State. I remember everybody was just like, you're making a mistake. You know, Ohio State's a top 10 program. They had finished fourth in the nation that year. I didn't even win a state title. So I go there as a walk-on. And it was amazing because, you know, no matter, I feel like in high school, the best high school players, in my opinion, might just be the ones that started the earliest, right? So if you're doing something since you're 6, 7, 8, you're going to have so many more reps and you're going to be a little bit better than the guy that I started in 7th, 8th grade, right?
Yep.
So I didn't develop, but once you hit college, I think things start to even out because everybody gets the same coach then. Now you're dealing with alphas. And I luckily had Kevin and Mark as the people that I looked up to. So I go to Ohio State. I see Kevin and Mark. They're in the weight room. I'm like, wow, those are the guys I want to be like. So they would invite us freshmen over, and all you wanted to be more than good was to be able to hang out with the cool guys, right?
Absolutely.
I tell this story. We would go to wrestle tournaments, but you had to be a dog. Like they wouldn't let you hang out with them if you were sorry. And I remember one time I was a true freshman. I went to this tournament. I took like second or third, and I come back to the house and I knock on the door, and they open it up. They had a little chain on it. It was like, "Did you win?" I was like, "Nope," and they just shut the door in my face. And I thought they were playing. I stood out there for another 10 minutes. Now it's November in Ohio, so it's cold.
Yeah.
And they was like, "Nope, go home." So I just walked home with my head between my legs, and I'm just like, "All right, man, I know what this is about now." But everything like was a competition, whether we call attack the hill. If there was ever a hill, we push the other one down, stand up, start sprinting. First one that wins is going up there. You know, anything there was that was competition, we were doing it. And the one thing we never missed, Mark Coleman, the originator of the ground and pound, he would never let us miss a weightlifting, right? Practice was important, but we was always lifting weights, man. Always trying to just get as strong as possible. From there, Kevin had won 2 national titles. Mark had made an Olympic team.
Right.
And then that was my junior year. I lost in the semis at NCAA's my junior and senior year. So I had a goal of being a national champion.
Right.
I never achieved that goal, but I fell a little short. But it's still good accolades, a 2-time All-American at the Ohio State.
There you go.
They led me to that. And I was telling you a little bit ago, another person that kicked my butt every single day, that no matter your political affiliation, what it is, was that Jim Jordan was one of my coaches too.
Yeah.
Meanest SOB you ever meet. He made everybody on the team quit at least one time. He was that good, including our heavyweights, and Jim weighed 134.
Oh, wow.
So then from there, man, I remember how I got into fighting. We were just sitting there watching UFC like everybody was, with Kimbo Slice and Hoist Gracie, not Kimbo, the Hawaiian dude, I forget his name, Chemo, and Hoist Gracie and all those guys. And we was like, "Mark, you can win this." Because my first fighting story in college, Mark wanted to see if I was tough. So he goes and points at a guy in the bar, and he's like, "All right, man, go beat him up." I'm like, "I ain't got no qualms with that dude." And he's like, "Man," he's like, "that was your end." So I go over to the dude. He was drunk, and I gave him a little elbow. He shoved me. Wow, knocked him out. Got kicked out the bar, but I was happy. They told me I'm like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and I was smiling, man. I was like, I'm in the clique, man. I'm in the clique. But from there, Mark was like, "All right, I'll go to the tournament." He goes to the tournament and wins it. Then it was next man up. Mark wins it. Next, Kevin, the toughest dude on campus at that time. And they put Kevin in a tournament in Brazil. Kevin wins it. Yeah.
That's crazy, man. That is just insane. I love the stories, though, man. But tell us a little bit now, Kevin, how he got into MMA. Tell us about his career, man. Just kind of dive in and give people, again, the hardcore UFC fans and MMA fans, they know him. But, for a lot of people, they saw the blonde hair and they don't necessarily know him and the name, and they want to put the face with the name. Give us his career. Tell us, just go down how he got in, his career.
Man, I'll break it down like this.
There.
Yeah, we'll start from, he went to Sandusky. He and my buddy Chris Corso, they both won state titles together, back-to-back weight classes. When he got to Ohio State, he wasn't that great of a wrestler. Mark Coleman took him up under the wing and just got him strong. With that strength, with explosiveness, he takes off. He wins 2 nights. I remember his freshman year, he lost in the national finals. He got pinned on TV, and he was so mad. That next year, he went up a weight class. Everybody thought that was a mistake. He goes undefeated. The next year, he was undefeated. And I remember, man, he was on like a 60-match win streak, whatever it was, because he was 42-0-3 his sophomore year. He started off like 20-0 his senior year. But he was feeling the pressure, man. He was just like, everybody was going to, just, hey, how long are you going to go undefeated? I remember our coach, Russ Hellickson, said, hey, man, just go out there, lose one. Get rid of that pressure, take the L off, loses to this guy named Lonnie Green, still wins. Lonnie gave him problems. He still wins a title that year. Right. And then his senior year, he didn't even want to wrestle. He was over it. I think he was just over the pressure. I don't want to say the pressure got to him. I think he just got bored with the sport, because when you get so good sometimes in wrestling, people quit competing against you and they're just trying to survive. So half the time you're not even doing anything. So from there, he didn't wrestle his senior year. He was just, trying to figure out life in general. And that's when Mark had won UFC, and it was just like a match made in heaven. All right, Kev, we were looking for fights because back then it was one weight class, and Kevin probably weighed 200. So we go to Brazil, and this is where the new generation don't get it. So we would go to Brazil, man. We go to these dojos. And when you go to the dojos, they're like, you're an American. So these people are trying to, they're trying to hurt you, kind of like they're trying to make a name for themselves. So we go into shoot to box where you got Anderson Silva, Valid, Ishmael, all these guys, and you go in there, man, and you work out. Kevin put me to the side, like, yo, you're fighting. Like when you get in this dojo, you're fighting. Don't think it's practice. You're straight up scrapping. And it's like a shoot to box, CHUTE. It's the toughest dojo, right? So then we go to the fight. Now the fight is crazy. The first tournament, I'll tell you about the one where he's in a boxing ring, man. So he's in a boxing ring, and at this time there was no time limit, and there's tournaments, right? So just imagine that you can fight 20 minutes, have an hour break. You got to fight 30 minutes, have a shorter break because the further the tournament goes, the less matches.
Right.
But you still got 14,000 people in the stands, and you can't keep them people restless or a brawl will break out, right?
Right.
So they'll come knock on your door. You're up again. So Kevin fights three monsters his first tournament and wins it. But you would fall out of the ring because it's in a boxing ring and we're fighting. Now imagine double legs on the mat and you'll go through the ropes, right?
Right.
The dojo would be there shoving you back in. It was surrounded by the Brazilians. It wasn't like seats in the back. You're right up on the mat, man.
Right.
So we're fighting the refs. We're fighting not knowing the language. They're speaking Portuguese. You're trying to understand it. We're fighting the dojos and we're fighting the crowd because they want all the Brazilians to win. You know, and you're winning. Kevin won the crowd over just because his physique more than anything in his energy. He's huge. Usually these jumps right here. He would do these huge jumps where he jump over your head. And as he's about to fight, and the crowd just love him. So he wins that tournament. Still, the UFC only had one weight class. And at that time, it was like they were choosing the best wrestler. So, you know, Mark got in because he was an Olympian. Kevin was a two-time national champ, but they were still Olympians. They would take ahead of him because they wanted like the best Olympian, the best boxer, the best karate dude. It was style versus style then. And nobody really cross-trained, so we didn't know how to do jiu-jitsu. So that he won that one. He won another one. And then finally he got the call for the UFC. Mark had lost to this guy named Maurice Smith. And Kevin was the next one up. And Kevin goes in there against Maurice Smith and just beats the hell out of him and just skyrockets up to fame. They had known him then, but then he shoots way up the ladder, man.
Right.
And that's how it started going. That's how everything started going.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, you can get on YouTube and you put in Kevin Randleman's name and all these highlights just pop up there, man. It is just awesome. And you all were best buds. I mean, he is your guy. You know, so and to see him shoot up the ranks, you know, and again, I'm an outside observer as far as UFC. You know, I love it, but I'm not in it, if that makes sense. I know you understand how that is. I love to watch it, but I'm not in it. So I'm more of a casual fan. But now tell us a little bit as far as everything else, like what changed for him once he got there. I know he moved to different, you know, organizations. Kind of give us that rundown on how after he hit, or I guess made it, then what?
Yeah, we'll have to even back it up. So UFC was taking off, and then America thought the UFC was too brutal.
Right.
So the reason Kev had to fight in Brazil, and even Mark had to go fight over, they fought over Pride also, was because the UFC got banned.
Right.
Because of John Galland. So we're all trying to make a living. But at that time, like Kevin would fight a tournament in Brazil. They got us good. Let me tell you this story. So I remember my first tournament, me and Kevin were roommates, living in an apartment. That shows you how much money we made. They weren't making nothing.
Right.
And you sign a contract, and if you don't win, you only make like $1,000. So y'all, we were fighting. We weren't making no money. We're fighting 3 super fights. Like you're fighting 3 tough dudes in the same night. So I remember my first tournament, we signed a contract. If you lost, you got 1,500. Maybe if you lost the next round, you might have got 5,000. Next round, 10,000. So my first fight ever, I fought the #1 ranked dude in the world and beat him. My first fight ever in Brazil. I didn't get any warm-ups besides the streets of Columbus on campus. You know, I'm a kid from the burbs. Now, next thing you know, I'm scrapping with everybody.
I got you.
But we get there and we go to get paid. I remember after the tournament, and they're shorting us money. And they was like, nah, you signed it in reals, not U.S. currency. So you're just like, wow, man, we weren't making much money. So then Kevin and Mark went over to Pride. Now, Pride is a Japanese network where they were they were getting 60,000 fans. We were fighting in front of, like, I think I fought in front of 15 or 20,000. They were fighting in front of 60,000. The production as Pride was just amazing. UFC ended up buying Pride. That's the first time you've seen the fire come out.
Right.
And the Japanese crowd was so different than us, man. So a lot of people don't know this, but the Japanese crowd, like, if they see something big, it's and it's quiet. And that's it. It is quiet. You can hear a pin drop. You can hear everybody shouting directions. And you're just like, this is a totally different world over here.
Right.
So he one of his biggest knockouts was he wins a whole bunch and he loses to our buddy Quentin Rampage Jackson. And Rampage is a tough SOB. And so you got two tough brothers finally beat. Kevin's on like a 5-match win streak. Rampage is like on a 5-match win streak, and Rampage wins. So Kevin drops down just a little bit, but they put him in this heavyweight tournament. Like, Rampage and some of these guys were too small. They wouldn't fight heavyweight tournament.
Right.
Kevin's weighing 205, 215, fighting dudes that weigh 275.
I was going to say, man. Whew. And
they put him in this tournament. He's got this number one dude in the world, and everybody was scared of him. A guy named Marko Krokov. Tough. I want to say he's Croatian. Kicked everybody in the head and knocked him out, man. And I remember Kev was like, he was hyped for it. And Chuck Liddell was on our side now at this time. And I'll go back to that other Chuck story. Chuck's training Kevin, and he's noticing with Mirko that every time he feints, Mirko drops his left. And Chuck's going to be like, feint or fake a shot, and that left's going to be there. Kev fakes a shot, throws his crazy, like, knocks him out. Mirko still got a little bit of consciousness in him. Kevin jumps down on him with this hammer forearm, boom, boom, and you just start seeing Mirko's head. Crowd goes crazy, man. Crowd goes crazy. And now at that time, you were only fighting once a night then because they figured it out.
Right.
When there were tournaments, nobody was ever making it to the end of the tournament because everybody be hurt. But then they started figuring it out. Yeah, man. So that's how, then from there, UFC came back around the corner and they started letting in some states. And then Kev got in the UFC. That's when he fought Maurice. And then, he fought Bas Rutten, where he really won that fight, but they gave it to Bas.
Right.
But Kevin ended up winning the UFC title, man. And that was the pinnacle. I was his roommate during this time, man. So just to give you a heads up, like in Brazil, when he won a tournament, he might win 20,000, fighting 3 fights. Then the next time, and you got to pay your trainers. You got to eat for 3 more.
You got expenses, man.
Yeah. And then the next one, we'd fight again as fast as it can, as soon as he healed up. We might win 30,000. When Mark won his first fight, it was only 50,000. I remember that, man.
Right.
That was us coming up, just grinding. I remember Mark used to have us pushing his Montero Jeep up hills. We were so basic and caveman with our training. Man, they just put some weight on the bar. Just get a little harder. We had no clue how to rest our bodies. We just fought. Like, the more we could tear each other down and try to break each other, the better it was.
I got you, man. That is awesome. Awesome stories, man. And love hearing it. I think a lot of people like to hear the inner workings in the beginning because we see all the glitz and the glamour of MMA and UFC now, but they don't understand, the early days and what went in to actually making the UFC / MMA what it is today, man. So,
yeah, I was there once. Mark was fighting. I think we were supposed to fight in New York, and this is when it got banned. So they had to change the fight in like 1 week. I think it was like 4 days actually. And there's a whatchamacallit about it. I think it's a documentary about it where they had to move the whole venue. Back in this day, nobody was really flying, so you would drive. They flew Mark out, but we had to switch everything. Drive there. They had to drive the cage to Birmingham, Alabama. They let people in for free because they wanted to fill up the venue.
Right.
Mark ended up, I think he beat Dan Severn that one, but it was just, the crowd was more like a real redneck crowd back then in Birmingham. Right? It was just, people were missing teeth. They was going crazy though. They were loving it, man. And you're like, I can see where this is going to take off. But at that time, the pay wasn't great. The notoriety wasn't there at all. The internet wasn't as big as it is now. Mm-hmm. People would know you, but they wouldn't know you like now.
Sure.
Yep.
So as he kind of moved through, Kevin kind of moved through, the ranks, moved through federations, and then he got out. Tell us how he got out, what he did, and then unfortunately, passed away super young, man. Tell us kind of how he transitioned from being out, or how was his transition from getting out to just, I guess, technically civilian life?
Yeah. So you're at a Cav probably his max. He might have weighed 230 one time in his life. So max at 220, constantly fighting heavyweight, constantly. And his body just started to tear down. I remember he had one fight, man. Me and him almost got in a fight like after the fight, because I was like, he went out there and he was trigger shy and he wasn't throwing. I was like, man, what are you doing, man? Like, do you want to do this? Like, do you want to do this? This is not you. And, we're in each other's faces. That's how it was. That's how we pushed each other. And wasn't scared to hold back.
Sure.
And then his body just started tearing down. And when you start seeing yourself lose to people that aren't on your level, you have to have a real talk with yourself. This is probably his 30th or 40th fight at the time. He was living out in Las Vegas. Got married to one of my good friends, Elizabeth Randleman. And they might have had that talk. So I think he had gone back to Bellator, I think it was. He had lost to one of the Gracies, lost another one, and I think he just was like, man, I just got to get out. At this time, right before then, have you ever Googled the Kevin Randleman, what's it called, where it's a fungus disease? The Buccaneers had it 1 year.
Staph infection.
Have you ever seen his holes in his chest?
I did, man. That was gruesome. My goodness.
That was happening while he was fighting. I remember he had got sick and passed out the wheel, ran into a truck. And then there was some pus there, and they found out, and there was a big hole in his chest. You guys got to Google it. Kevin Randleman staph infection. I think Liz had said she had to put 10 feet of gauze in there to soak up the pus. You got to let it close on its own. So the staph infection started just wearing his body down. Just the constant battle of knees hurting, you know what I mean? Like your body breaks down from fighting.
Right.
Punches to the head, they start to add up.
Yeah, they do.
So I think that's why he got out. Then from there, he was doing a whole bunch of stuff. He was training. He had trained the troops one time. He'd go over there and work out with them, and they loved him. And he wanted to build. He's starting to build his brand. Yeah. And I remember he got sick, man. I remember I got to call my buddy Chris Corso, his best friend that was coming up, called and was like, yo, man, Kev passed away. He was in San Francisco. He was going to do something, I think, with the troops. They rushed him to the hospital, and they says he died from complications of pneumonia. And the thing is something to do a little bit with the staph infection. After you get pneumonia, it got him fast. It was almost like how COVID got people, but this is like 10 years, 5, 6, 7, 8 years before COVID.
Right. Gotcha, man. Too bad. Too young. Too young.
Well, then after that, we were just focused on him getting into the UFC. His wife, Liz, made sure that was like the number one goal. Then I think it was 2 years ago, man, he finally got inducted to the UFC Hall of Fame. And
I was literally just going to ask you that, man. How was that seeing him get into the UFC Hall of Fame? Because, he was at the very early stages of the UFC. So seeing him get into the UFC Hall of Fame has got to be something special for you, man. Mm-hmm.
It was like, we got in. Like, it's crazy.
Absolutely.
Because he would know exactly what he would say if he was here. He's like, nah, man, I didn't get in. We got in. Because, I took a lot of those beatings. I took a lot of those beatings to make me better. I used to tell people, and we would be at my place, and we'd be on the sticks. We playing Madden, and Kev get mad, and be like, all right. Then we do say we do a push-up, or we go race outside no matter what. And the loser had to stand with their hands behind their back, and the winner just gets up as hard as they want. We trade licks, man. Like, all that that was us all the time. I took my friends to go meet him in Las Vegas. This is before he got into the UFC. My friend Donnie Garrett, a big crew of ours. And as soon as Kev walked with the MGM Grand, we got a big old suite there. Everybody thinks we're supposed to be all nice and stuff. He sees me. I'm like, really, Kev? Right away. Boom, we're wrestling. Knocked him over everything. And it was like, yo, I'm double-legging him. Like, boom, I finally could score. I'm big as him now. Because growing up, he was always way bigger. Right. So I get him, I take him down, I'm smacking him, and then he flips me over. I'm like, oh, shit, here we go. But to have that, and then we go back to Vegas, and to have that notoriety and see everybody that came and talked about him and the love. And Elizabeth made sure everybody had the pre-party done. We had every big name. Chuck was there. Diaz, you name it. It's a UFC Hall of Fame event. John Jones, the whole crew were there, showing nothing but love, and that meant a lot.
That's awesome. That is awesome, man. Well, again, thank you for taking the time to speak to us today, man. We really do appreciate it. Tell us, Eric, right now, to give us what you are doing right now, man, because I know a lot of people, again, they want to hear about Kevin. They know you as well. Tell us what you're doing, man.
Man, now what I do is I build teams. I own an insurance agency. So more than anything right now, I'm building teams, having people like last year, I had 5 of my agents make over $100,000. So
Okay.
I'm just trying to show people a different path, how to make money in this industry. So I'll give you my handles, Eric Yante, YANTA at Instagram. If you're looking to make 6 figures, come holler at your boy. I still go to dojos and MMA places, and I'd still like to beat their ass, you know,
There you
Brian. They
go.
still 49 now, but they still can't hang. I got one day. People were like, could you train? I was like, I could fight, but the next day I'm gonna be so sore I can't train.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, our body don't recruit. So I still go there. I still go to I help out with wrestlers. A kid I taught wrestling. Mason, I didn't teach him wrestling, but I took him from great to a state title. He actually became a long snapper at Ohio State. So he was a state champion here in Florida. So I'll come and I'll help out individuals wrestling. Just look over their stuff, making sure everything's on point. We had one of the high schools I helped coach at here. They end up having 5 D1 wrestlers. So, man, I'm just trying to give back to the community, make everybody better. Kind of do the stewardship Kev did with me, man. Just uplift these kids, but make them tough at the same time.
Sure.
Like, I don't give no kid no love, man. I try to destroy them the first day. I got to humble them first, and then we can bring them back up.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? But these kids think they're too good right now. You got to be like, now I'm going to show you real quick. I'm going to show you.
Right.
Yeah, you defeated. Now I got you. Let's go.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Good luck in everything you're doing, and we will have you back on again soon, my man.
All right, brother. You stay cool, my guy.
All right. Thank you.
You avail all the way. Let's go. All right, man.